Well, hi everybody, it's Doug. Coming to you in a different format today because we're going to be doing more educational stuff than actual lock content, but educational related to locks. I've been meaning to do this for quite some time, but I actually give credit to Paracentric for asking for this content because I didn't know if anybody actually had really wanted it. The content today is to show you my resources for researching padlock history and finding out more about our padlocks. I'm going to start at the granddaddy of it all, and this is going to be a great start for you, and that is Antique Padlocks. The URL is antique with a hyphen padlocks.com. All sorts of useful information here that you can browse through and poke around, categorized by different types of locks, that sort of a thing. Credit goes to David Hoyerman for bringing all this information together. He passed away, I think, about 6 months ago, but handed it off to someone else before that happened. And the first place I'm going to take you, just to show you useful information that we have here, is Manufacturer Index. And I'm looking for Yale, so I go to Y. There are all sorts of different things. Now, I find this a little almost frustrating because there's more information and more categorization than I could ever want. And it actually makes it harder for me to get around. So I will show you a little trick in a little while about how to get around this better. But let's say we go into some push keys, and I'll go here. And I'll show you one of my favorite locks that I have is this ICRR. So first of all, with any one of these, you can click and see the front and back of the lock. I've got this zoomed up to full size, so you're only seeing part of my screen, but you could see close-ups. The other really useful tool is over here. You don't see it on everything, but you will see patent numbers. Somebody put a lot of hard work into this and researched where the patents were for each of these types of locks. With those patents, you can click any one of them, and you can usually get either Patent Office or Google. I usually go to Google because it's more dependable. Now, at first you can't really see much, but if you download PDF, then you can see what beautiful job somebody did drawing this whole thing. You see the date, so I know this patent is 1902, which means any lock that I find is at least no older than 1902. And you'll see who it's been assigned to and all sorts of other interesting things. This is just gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. This is just the beginnings of what you'll find around here, but I just wanted to kind of point you in the right direction. So now, let's say I wanted to find a particular lock on here. Yes, you can poke around, use the indexes, but I've got a cool little Google trick for you. Not a lot of people know that you can begin your Google search by typing site : antique padlocks or any domain name up front. This will then restrict the search to only what is on that website. So I've seen these kind of cool Texaco padlocks over there. So if I search Texaco, instead of having to go down and look through the 12 different indices, Wilson Bohannon, and there's the Texaco locks. So it is not perfect, but it is better than searching around by hand. Variation on this one is, again, cite antique padlocks, but putting quotes around the phrase. This means it will not look for keystone somewhere around the words 6 lever. It will only find keystone with a single space, 6 lever after it. And that takes me right over to keystone 6 lever, just like that. So I do wish you lots of luck with that. Another incredibly useful tool found on antiquepadlocks.com, and sort of the origin of some of my collecting info, is their downloads page. They have a small subset of catalogs from different manufacturers, and you can look through a whole bunch of them. But let's say I'm looking at a Sargent padlock and I wanted to know how old it might be. So we go to Sargent, download it, And I'll open it up in my tool for browsing PDFs. And you could see, then I can scroll through and try to find a particular padlock. If you don't see a padlock in 1902, then you'd go forward to, let's say, the 1920 or the 1910 catalog and see if you see it in there. One really, really important thing, and I'll try this with a more recent catalog. I'll go to their 1926 because it's a little bit newer looking and easier to view. When you find a padlock, don't always assume it's exactly the same one that you've got just because it has the name on the front. You might find that the font has changed as it does over time, or that there's different shapes. Like notice how this has the pipes across it, where this one goes straight across. So look for those shapes, and when you're looking at well, like this sort of padlock, look at the pins, because these pins could be slightly different in location depending on the year. And you might find that later in the manufacture, that pin went away and was replaced by one over here or something like that. So make sure you get all the landmarks in the right place before you decide, oh, that's the one. But basically, go back until you find the oldest catalog that you have that contains that particular lock, and that is a general idea of when it came from. Now, another tool, and this is one where I could literally get lost for the weekend just poking around. It's not as good as search tool, but it has so many resources that you could poke around and learn all sorts of things and get sidetracked into what I would almost refer to as rabbit holes. So this is archive.org. Now, when we first get here, I will show you a really cool feature that has nothing to do with locks, Wayback Machine. So if I put in something like antiquepadlocks.com, they take snapshots over time, and you can see the entire timeline going back to 2007, 2011. I could pick any year, pick any day on the calendar, and see what the website looked like at that date and time. There'll be a lot of broken images and stuff like that, but it's kind of neat to be able to back up through time and see what some kind of content might have been way back when, especially if they removed it. This is why they say the internet is forever, because you can look back at things that have been removed long ago. But back to the main archive.org. The reason I come here is this search. This will allow me to search for just about anything, and it will find it among all archived text and other content. So this is where I get a lot of my Yale catalogs and other catalogs. Yale catalog on its own, I come up with a 1908 and 1921, number 26 from 1929, but I'll also tell you that way back in the old-timey days, catalog was spelled with a UE at the end. So it's also useful to search for UE, and then you'll find things back as old as 1884 and various other things. I also get Yale, this is probably the university, the college, but you get the idea. All sorts of cool ones. Now, the other thing that I'll do, if I can't find a particular catalog, for example, I couldn't find a good catalog for Miller when I searched for Miller catalog. I know Miller made the Champion 6-lever padlock. So I'll search Champion 6-lever, and I will get a little bit of everything, texts and so on. But it's only searching the metadata, and you might not be happy with what you got. So instead, we search text contents. This will go through everything it has on file, which literally goes back to the 1400s, and show you anything with that set of words. That's going to give us tens of thousands. In fact, I'll take a second and we'll see what we actually get. Champion 6 lever phrase like that gave us, oh, actually only 128 results. And there is the catalog. But one other tip while I'm here is add quotes. This will only find exactly champion 6 lever, kind of like what I showed you back on searching Google. And now it gives us a timeline. I don't care about more recent champion stuff, but I want older things. So I can set the time limit as 1935 as the high end. And now we have all sorts of published content that actually mentions champion 6 lever. So this one actually, Logan Gregg Hardware Company mentions the champion 6 lever. Here's another tip. If I were to click on this, it would actually load it up in place of my results page, and then I'd lose my results page. So hold down your control key, then click on it. That opens it up in its own tab, and then I can switch back here later. Now the nice thing about this is not only does it open up the catalog that it found it in, but it will show me all the places it said champion 6 lever. So I'm just waiting while it searches, and there we go. One spot, but look, exactly what we were trying to find. When there are multiple spots in the same document, you can use this arrow to go to the next. In this case, it's on the same page. But if there are maybe 20 references, you'd see 20 bars along here. You can go from next to previous. These are the normal next page, previous page. So you could just flip through and see other interesting stuff within this catalog. The other really cool thing is when you find something that you really wanted, there is a download. This icon on the left will let you download this directly to your own computer, and you then have your own copy of it to look at anytime you want. Another type of thing that you'll find here is you'll see antique price guides. Let me see if I have any on this page. Nope. So I'll take away the quotes, which will give me a lot more content, including that neat catalog that I was told you about before. So even though I had been unable to find a Miller catalog, there it is. And that's the case of the multiple occurrences. I could just keep clicking the right arrow and it jumps ahead, finding all the matches. Neat little thing. Also an index on here so I could jump right to that reference. There's champion 6 lever. So very, very useful tool. Let's try a Sargent padlock using quotes in text contents, not just metadata, looking for the phrase Sargent padlock. And you're finding actual advertisements. So the Warren Times Mirror makes a reference to Sargent padlock, and then Sargent locks and hardware right there. So I actually managed to find a catalog with their padlocks in it. Interesting finds that we come across. Now, while poking around, I found I couldn't get a Slaymaker catalog. In fact, when I searched Slaymaker, I got seed catalogs. So apparently there was a Slaymaker out there with seed catalogs. So instead, I remembered the name was Frame Slaymaker. They joined up with two companies and made Frame Slaymaker. My first search with exact quotes then starts showing me things like Hardware Age. Let's see if they have anything interesting when I look at that. Okay, so old-fashioned catalog or old-fashioned advertisement pictures there. And the other thing you can do for searching is put in parentheses. This will search for both words in proximity, if I understand correctly. So they may not be frame and sleigh maker all in one place, but it will be. Oh, there's a price guide I was talking about, a railroad collector's price guide for what something was worth back in the day. But there I am finding frame sleigh maker in proximity to each other. Right there, frame sleigh maker. So again, all sorts of neat little extras. Now, I showed you about all this searching. Remember, like I said, these price guides will allow you to see, yeah, obviously, antique price guide from 1977 may not be useful, but if you keep looking around, especially if I drag to the more recent timeline on the timeline and look for my price guides, interesting. Group key catalog. It's just, oh, flea market prices. That's what I was looking for. So this one dates to 2004. And there we go. They start showing us, I can zoom in a little bit. 6-lever sleigh maker selling for $5. This cool one, freight car, whoops. A freight car switch that was Oregon Short Line selling for $64 back in 2004. So neat little extra resources. So this is sort of the main concept. Hopefully you'll find other interesting things. Let me see. There was one other thing I did want to show you. And here was, just wanted to show you that while I was looking around, I found Hardware World Volume 17. And it takes a minute to load up because there's a lot of pages, but this is from 1922. But there we go. This gorgeous, gorgeous sleigh maker lock. And you can still browse around here using the page advance and see other locks that you might not have thought to look for that are also advertised in here. You can see it's still cataloging as we go. So there you go. There's quite a lot of resources and a lot of interesting information. Again, antique-padlocks.com, where you can search for padlocks. There's the downloads page on antiquepadlocks.com. And then you've got the site search in Google, and of course, archive.org, where you can see all sorts of content, whether you're looking for catalogs, whether you're looking for individual advertisements, lots of really interesting things. All right, thanks for joining me. Hopefully this has been helpful to you guys. I hope to do another one on talking about shopping and valuing your padlocks. So when you're looking for them, where to look, or how I look, and how I decide whether it's a good deal. Thanks everybody for joining me. If you get a chance, give me a thumbs up. Give me a comment. Let me know if you liked or disliked, and if there's something I could add to this in the future. Thank you so much. Have a great one, and we'll talk to you guys again soon.